Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Nazir daf Chaf. We are going to begin on Chaf but Al, fourth line from the top, with Masa Behiloni Hamalka. So, even though we saw the Mishnah, but let's see this part of the Mishnah again, because there was a machlokes in the event that someone was a Nazir, even accepted numerous Nazirs upon themselves, finished it, and then went to Eretz Yisrael. So there was a machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, whether or not, now that you went to Eretz Yisrael, you need to add extra time, or how much that is. Beis Shammai says you have to be a Nazir another 30 days. Beis Hillel says you have to do it all over in Eretz Yisrael. And the Gemara discussed the reason why, as we discussed yesterday. And then brings down a story of Hiloni Amalka, that her child went out to war, and she said that if my child comes back from war in peace, then I'll be a Nazira for 7 years. That was her statement. And her child came back from war, so she became a Nazir for 7 years. And then it says, at the end of those 7 years, she went to Eretz Yisrael. So now we're going to have to understand is what happened now, and according to Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. So Beis Hillel said that you're a Nazir another 7 years, which is what he holds. However, what ended up happening is that at the end of those 7 years, she became Tameh, and then she had become a Nazir for 21 years. Now the question is, as we're going to see in the Gemara, Rabbi Huda says that, no, Lo Ha'isa Nazir El Arba Asri Shana. She was only a Nazir for 14 years. Now, why 14 years? Why not 21 years? So this the Gemara asks. V'chu, Iboilhu, Mishinitmis, is it talking about she did become Tameh, and it's V'yalib de Beis Shammai? So, in other words, why is it 14 years? She did 7. She has to do it another 7 because she was Tameh, and according to Beis Shammai, you only have to do another 30 days, so that's really almost like nothing, so we don't even want to include it, just 14 years is a big enough number, and that's what it means. O Dilma b'shalo nitmis v'lido Hillel. Maybe she didn't come Tameh at all, but she did the 7 years, went to Eretz Yisrael, and then she had to do 7 more years, but she wasn't Tameh. So, which one was it? Tashma. Also, Aretz, she went up to Eretz Yisrael, and she had to be in Nazir another 7 years. Now, we're talking about Mishinitmis, that she was Tameh, and if you leave the Beis Shammai, if we want to be a little bit more exact, she really was not a Nazira for 14 years. She has to be for 30 days. 14 years and 30 days. And it doesn't say that. Tanya Nami Hachi, Rabbi Huda Omer, Mishim Rabbi Lezer, the Omer Kra, Zois Taras Nazir, Hatar Omer Ki Nitma Biamalois, Tain Loy Taras Nazir. Based on the pasuk that says, Zois Taras Nazir, so the Torah says that if you become Tameh on Yom Malois, then you have to do another Taras Nazir, which means you have to be a Nazir again, which is a period of 30 days. Okay, so that was the question that was posed, and what exactly did she hold like, or what does rather Rabbi Huda hold like? Okay, so let's see the Mishnah. Next Mishnah. Let's say you have two groups of witnesses, and they're testifying, saying that this individual is Makabel Nazirus. The question is how much. So one said it was for 2 terms. Another group of witnesses, it was for 5 terms. So this is like a contradiction in the 2 statements, since we don't have 2 witnesses saying one particular thing, so therefore they're thrown out. Beis Hillel Oimrim Yesh B'chal Chamish Shtayim Shehi Nazir Shtayim says that the reality is that the one who said 5 years, like Yesh B'chal Masai Mana, so also within the 5 years is 2 years. So therefore, it should be Davar Pashit that again, this is talking about with just one witness and one witness. So we combine them because they both are not arguing with one another as far as 2 years. So maybe, at least for that, we should say that Edis is acceptable. And Mefarish says, if you have 2 groups of witnesses, so then there's no question. It's only over here because there's one witness and one witness. But if you have shtei kitei edim, 2 and 2, one says 2 years, one 2 terms, one says 5 terms, then we'll definitely say yesh b'chalal. Okay, so in this Taisus asks a question over here. First wide line. The ein kan naziris klal. So according to Beis Shammai, there's no naziris at all. The 5 years and the 2 years, 5 terms and 2 terms are 2 separate things. The timer for Taisus hechi dami. What's the case? Why is it a problem if the person who heard this was shaisik? He didn't disagree, so we say shtika koida. So therefore, he should serve 2 terms. So Taisus gives 3 answers. That the noider, the alleged noider, denied any of the claims. If he did agree to one of the witnesses, then it's like hoda, right? So therefore, one answer is that he was machish, these guys. Inami, but I don't really know, I don't remember. And therefore we have to figure out the testimony, because this guy is no good, he has no recollection. Inami, third answer is kishishaisek, he was silent. Uvashte kitois, Yachad, the 2 groups came together. We don't say shtika koida. The lav moidahu de'emer mali lachishan hashtehem machishan zedze. He can say, why do I need to speak up? These 2 guys are contradicting each other. So obviously they're lying. They're not telling the truth because they can't even get their story right. So there's no need for me to speak up. So maybe in that case we don't say shtika koida. Very interesting, Sfara. Question 11. So again, he asked a question. So only goes to the last answer. He says that you have 2 witnesses that came together, and the shtika is not kodah because he said, what's the point in me contradicting them? They're contradicting. They're giving contradictory testimony anyway, so they're obviously not going to be accepted. At least that's what he thought, and therefore we don't necessarily say shtika kodah in that instance. Very interesting Taisus. Says the Gemara. So masnisin deluki aitana. Our Mishnah is not in accordance to the following statement. The Sanya. Rabbi Shmuel ben Ishel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika Omer, Nechlu beisham beis Hillel. They do not argue al shtei kitei edim when it comes to 2 groups of witnesses. Achas omer shtayim, v'achas omer chamesh, shesh b'chol chamesh shtayim, which is really what we saw in the Mefarish, that they don't argue in that situation. Certainly, we're going to listen to the 2 terms because you have 2 witnesses and 2 witnesses. Alman nechlu al kad achas, one group. Echad omer shtayim, v'echad omer chamesh, v'shami omrim nechlu edusan. If it's just 2 people, we're going to throw them out. Okay. Fine. So, fine. Weiter. So it's seemingly that could maybe fit into our Mishnah, but it's actually not the case because the Mishnah, the language of the Mishnah, which is I was reading a different part of the Mefarish. The Mishnah says, "Mefarish, me show you shtei kitei edim." Right, there's 2 pairs of witnesses. So our Mishnah says that the machlokas is actually when there's 2 and 2. Not that it's only by 1 and 1 that they argue, but by 2 and 2 everyone agrees. Everyone agrees b'moine when we're dealing with counting. When we're dealing with counting. Look at Taisvis. Shenechka ha'edos. In that situation, if they were counting 1, 2, then we definitely say that they don't combine. Or Rabbi Shmuel di'amar depligi beis Shammai beis Hillel bekarachas, where he says that they argue by one group. Hainu kishaymer echad shtayim. One says kishechad oimer echad shtayim. The echad oimer chamesh. When one just says 2, another one just says the word 5. If they keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kinemasik v'ozl nechla edos. So once you're counting, that already creates that it's not, you can't combine these 2 testimonies. Fine. Says the Gemara. So he says, "Akol moide b'moine." Amrulei Rav Chamal Rav Chisda my karmer. Ilema echad omer chamish v'loy shtayim. If one says 5 and not 2, the echad omer shtayim v'lo chamish hamakshia hadadi. That's a double pashut. They're literally contradicting each other. So in that situation, it should be obvious that we're not going to listen to them. Ela echad omer achas v'shtayim. One says 1 and 2. The echad omer shalosh arba chamesh. And one says 3, 4, 5. As we continue to chafam beis. So in that situation, halamuli. So why would we need to mention this? Hashde yesh loimer chamirta. When we're dealing with something which is strict, omer kilta, omer rav kilta loy omer. So even by our Mishnah, we have 2 Nazirus. So Amir b'Marava ein hachasha b'moina. That even when there's counting, we do not say there's hachasha. Let's look at the mafarsh. Hashish leimer chamir toimer rav heicha dahavibes kiti. We have 2 groups of witnesses. One counts 1 and 2, and the other one counts 3, 4, 5. Shamin and leirav nechleidus, and then it gets their edus doesn't work. Bekilta delay havi elachad v'chad. So if let's say there's only 1 and 1 witness. Loy oimer the nechachai dusen pshita davadi omar. Right? It should be a double pashut that in that situation in which there is just 1 and 1, then certainly they're not going to combine if it's maina. Right? So that's how you read it. Hashdi yesh loimer chamir taimer rav so kilta loy oimer. So certainly in that situation, if there's 1 and 1, then they're not going to combine if they count. So amri b'marava ein hachasha b'moina. So look in the Mefarsh. Shim echad oimer achas. If one says 1, shtayim, echad oimer shalosh arba chamesh, ein zu hachasha. This is not a contradiction. And still, according to Merava, yesh b'chal chamesh shtayim b'hein nazir shtayim. That even by moina, it's considered not to be an issue of hachasha, and therefore it still will work. Okay. Hadron alach mish amar, halach mish amar, halach mish amar. We're now continuing the 4th parak. So the Mishnah says as follows: Mishamer harini nazir. Person says, "I'm a nazir," and v'shama chaver, someone hears it. V'omer v'ani, and he says, "And I." Just one short word, v'ani. A third person says it. So kulam nazirim. So all these people are considered to be nazirim, and therefore, what happens if v'huter harishayin? If let's say the first guy has his neder annulled, so it's gone. So huter kulam. Guy number 2 and 3 are also off the hook. Why? Says Taisus, Lefi Shamar Vani Kamohu, the Tol Nidrehim Benidrei. Because you're connecting, you're attaching your neder to theirs. So therefore, if the original neder is gone, so is yours. However, if the last guy, the third guy, has it removed, that doesn't affect the people before it. And they'll still be, their neder will still be chal, they'll be nazir. Omer, the Mishnah says, Hareini Nazir, I'm a Nazir. V'shama Chavero, and someone hears it. The Omer, he says, Pi Kipiv. My mouth is like his mouth. V'sari Kasaro, and my hair will be like his hair. Sahar is a Nazir. We say in these different languages that also counts. And the Gemara is going to explain this at greater length. Hareini Nazir, let's say a person says I'm a Nazir. V'shama Ishtai. His wife hears v'amra v'ani, and I. So mefer eshalah, you could remove hers in v'shaloi kayim. And when it comes to your own neder of being a nazir, that still can remain. Says Taisus, the tola klal nidra benidra. They're not attached. Hareini nazira. Let's say a person says I'm a nazir v'shama bal, and her husband overhears it v'amra v'ani, and the husband says, and I. Enu yachol hafer. At that moment, he's not able to annul it because it'll remove his, which he actually can't do. So if you look in Taisus, l'kach ein yachol hafer shimefer law im kain nisbatel gameshalo. You're removing yours shenidra tol benidra because they're attached. Vein rashai ligrom davar liyos nidra mavotel. you cannot do something which is going to cause it to get removed. So you can't do something to have your own removed. That doesn't work. And therefore, you can't remove hers either. Hareni Nazir, man says, I'm a Nazir, V'at, and you, V'amra Amen, and she says Amen, and agreeing to it, May for a Shalah. He can remove hers, the Shalah Kayim. Hareni Nazira, V'ata, and you, V'amra Amen, Enu Yachal Hafer. That situation cannot make for because they'll end up removing his as well. Okay, the Gemara is going to talk more about that in the future daf. So Yosef Reish Lakish, Kamed Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya v'Yosef v'Kaimer v'hu shehetfisu kun b'toich de dibor. It's necessary that when the person said vani, based on the Reisha, one person is Nazir, one person is vani, it has to be within a short span of time of toch de dibor. The kama toch de dibor, how long is that? Kedei shil shalom. It's just a greeting. But kama kedei shil shalom. Kedei shemer shalom talmud rav. The amount that a student says to his Rav, to his teacher. Malay, Toiv, Tuv, Lo Shavka Rav Talmida. You haven't given space for the students. So let's look in, we're going to stop there. Let's look in Taisus. So Taisus says, Takadi Dibur is Hainu Shom Lecha Rebbe, Gimel Tevais, 3 words. Hachinami Yechon Shleisha Nashim Lahatis Atzman Berishin. Therefore, since each person says vani, which is a word, so you can have up to 3 people that can say this to attach to the original person. Shekol echad omer vani im sholosh heim sholosh tevos. Vani saying it 3 times, 3 different people is 3 words. The last person is teichadi dibra, the first. Abul Ravi says Taisus and Yachol Hatvis. According to Taisvus, he says that a 4th person would not be able to be hatvis atzman berishin shened ben Nazir shekol echad oimer vani him sholosh tevos. I missed that. Afil oimer vani shekvar show kedei dibor min arishon. It's already more than to kedei dibor. L'kach l'chayil naziris Rabbi. So it's only because it's shomlecha Rebbe, which is 3 words. So therefore, it has to be only 3 people can say it, not a 4th. And then on this, the Gemara says, "Lo shavka ravcha talmida." Kolimer talmid sheshamel echad. If a student hears one person shenad ben Nazir who bikesh loimer vani, and he wants to say an I, v'daich kach over rabbi lefanav, and during that time his teacher walks in front of him, who chayiv l'hakdim loishalom. He has to first greet his teacher, v'loimer shomel echa Rebbe, which is 3 words. V'hem shlosh tevos, says Taisus. Shuvo yoyel hatvis benazir. So you're saying he can't be matvis benazir? Im yomer vani shekvar shad kadei dibor ve'inzu svara elvani gam revi nitvis. The 4th, you can also do a 4th. Why? Hoyel v'loy shaklal le'achar kadei dibor el alter omer kadei dibor oimer vani. So there's no delay. So therefore, the 4th person could also do it. Al-Hachamishi, says Taisus, for some reason, Vadi and Unitlish is Shuk Sas Acher Kadei Dibor. When it comes to the 5th person, not. So it's a machlokas in Taisus bringing down whether or not a 4th person can be matvis to the 1st. Question 12. Misha, which based on the Gemara. Misha Mahareni knows of a Shema Chaver of a Ratzel Hatvis Loi, Mao Shir Hizman, Shiachal Hatvis Beloimer Bani Veyet Nazir. So it's Teichadi Dibor, which is 3 words. And according to Yehuda Nesiya, he says, Af Acher Kedei Dibor Samach V'alter, which means the 4th person can also do it, and that would be acceptable. Okay. Let's see. Question 26. Well, didn't do. Okay. Question TB 26. We just did. Okay, so question 26. Misha Omer Harini Nazir V'Shama Chaver V'Ratzel Hatvislo Mao Shir Hazman Shechel Hatvislo Lemer Vani V'Hei Nizra. So it's a clean, simple question. According to Rish Lakish, Takadi Dibur Gimel Tevos Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya Af Acher Kadei Dibur B'Samach L'Alter Ad Kan.